part of the experience. That would be really fantastic. So welcome and thank you for coming today. My name is Kristen Robinson. I am one of the 4 founders of Message Mindset. I'm also joined today by 2 other of our founding members, Monique Thompson and Nikki Rohde. Gabrielle Plumasso may show up shortly. And then we also have with us today John Ceballos, who is going to be today's guest trainer. Before I turn the floor over to John, I just want to go over a couple quick housekeeping things. And for those of you who are new to us, I'll just tell you quickly who we are. So the housekeeping things first. Thank you all very much for putting your cameras on. And I understand you may need to turn them off at some point. You may not be able to come on camera, but as long as you are able to be with us, it just makes such a nice feeling of community and that we are actually sharing this experience together. In that vein, please feel free, eat your lunch, pet your dog, cuddle your cat, your lizard, your bird, it doesn't matter. Or step away and come back if you need to. Basically, take care of your own Maslow so that you get the most juice for the squeeze out of today. Again, please mute when you're not sharing, just to cut down on background noise. We are monitoring the chat. You are welcome to use the chat. In fact, if you'd like to introduce yourself as I'm covering some of these housekeeping things and let us know who you are, where you're from, that would be awesome. While John is presenting, I will go ahead and keep monitoring that chat and I can collect questions for him. Or he may say, just ask me questions. I'll defer to John on how he wants to handle interaction during his program today. If we miss seeing you and you've got a question, a comment, or a concern, and we didn't notice your physical hand raise or whatever you put in the chat, please raise that digital hand. That is another way of getting our attention, and we will make sure to call on you because we want everybody to have a chance at participation today. All right, I'm going to throw a couple quick slides on screen. All right. So just a little bit about who Message Mindset even is. We are 4 trainers who came together and quickly realized that what we wanted to do both for ourselves and for others was to create a forum for skill building, for discussion about real-world interpretive work, some of the challenges that we might be experiencing, but also to meet those challenges with solutions and innovations by collecting good ideas from everybody in the room, not just the 4 of us who initially came together. Now, for the past 3 years or so, we have been focused on offering interpretive training through a couple of channels. We all offer the NAI's Certificate in Interpretive Guiding courses, but from time to time, we have our own courses, and they are focused on things like interpretive foundations, skill clinics on storytelling and empathy and theme writing and relevance. And most recently, we've started this Train the Trainer set of roundtable discussions. Now, we are continuing to have ideas in discussion and in the works, both for classes that we could offer live, online, or online on your own, right? However, we are also in a place of, wait for it, evolution. And so we would like to hear from those of you who have been coming to these clinics. In the coming weeks, we're going to put a Google form together and send it out to anybody who's registered or even checked our stuff out on the YouTube, because we want to understand, what are you valuing of what we'd offered? What are you looking for that you haven't been able to find in other places? And we would like to sort of use that to guide us as we iterate the next version of Message Mindset. So when you get that email, we hope you'll take a moment and share with us. Now, speaking of evolution, we are also going to take a moment and say thank you so much to Nikki Rohde, who is with us today, and all of the work that she has done helping Message Mindset evolve up until now. Nikki is one of our founders, and founders are forever, but Nikki has decided to take a step back from Message Mindset and focus on some projects of her own for right now. But we look forward to welcoming her back as a guest trainer, as a participant, as a trusted friend and colleague, as long as we can lure her back into these rooms. And speaking of guest trainers, if you are somebody who is interested in sharing your training superpowers and skills and learnings with this community, We want to keep platforming trainers who are not the four of us and who have ideas that they want to share. So, if you are interested, we have 2 slots left this year, November and December, you might have guessed. However, if we get good response on this, there's no reason we couldn't continue salting the program with guest trainers into 2026. So for right now, the fastest way to reach us, even though we do have a message mindset email that we do all monitor, the fastest way is to email us directly. So I'm going to throw my email into the chat, which is kristen@theimpactstory.com. And Monique, I know, had mentioned that she might be doing the same thing. We'll just gather up whatever we hear from you all, and we'll start building out a guest trainer program. Up there's that one. And so I believe that is it for my housekeeping. I am going to stop sharing and I'm going to turn the floor over to John, who is going to be guiding us through an exploration of when less is more. Go ahead, John. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Can everybody see and hear me okay? Really pleased to be joining you all today. I've participated in a number of these sessions and always found them authentic and valuable and engaging. And I hope all of you feel, welcome to participate in the discussion today and that you enjoy what I have to share. So with that, I am going to share my screen. Everybody see that okay? All right, when less is more, lessons learned from training interpreters. Um, right. Oh, there we go. Did that advance? Okay, tech issues. All right, so just I'm going to spend a few minutes doing a brief introduction, go through a few slides very quickly, and then we'll try to use the bulk of the time for an activity that I have planned and discussion, and then try to leave a few minutes at the end for debrief. Okay. Uh, really quickly, I want to introduce you to the organization that I work for called Earth to Sky. Quick show of hands, how many of you have heard of Earth to Sky before? Oh, good, that's great. Love to see that. Earth to Sky is a relatively small program um, that operates kind of under the motto of connecting the wonders of science with the power of place. You can see our mission statement right there on your screen. And we're a small team housed at the Goddard Space Flight Center just outside of Washington, D.C. We're part of the Earth Science Division at NASA, and we sit in the Biospheric Sciences Lab. Um, we are a contractors, so we work for a private company called Science Systems and Applications, and we are under the Hydrosphere, Biosphere, and Geosphere contract for the work that we provide. Um, who we are specifically, there's 5 of us on the team. A couple of us are here today, and we are kind of dispersed across the country with our leader, Genevieve, the only one who is on site in DC on a regular basis. A little bit about our program and the impact that we've had. We've been around for 20 years, and we have expanded just in the last 4 or 5 years. We have several thousand community members, and we have 15 regional teams that help us do our work. And a study that was conducted, evaluation early on in the program, discovered that we had reached 4 million visitors to public lands and other sites nationally. So we try to have kind of a platform where we have a small group influencing a slightly larger group that hopefully has an ultimate audience that is significant. And in that way, we kind of magnify our impact and get the word out to the general public. We do this in a couple different ways. We do webinars, we do virtual trainings, we present at conferences and attend conferences like the NAI conference. We do events like this, and we also do in-person professional development workshops. And that's kind of what I'm going to focus on talking about for the rest of today. Hopefully this is relevant to you. Many of you, I believe, also do training workshops, either CIG or other similar curriculums. So a little bit about Earth to Sky courses. Um, we do these courses about once a year, depending on the capacity of our team, and they are not large courses, but have maybe 20 to 30 participants. They're intimate in nature. They include preliminary work and then the face-to-face sessions, which take the place over the course of 2 to 4 days. And a couple of the things that I want to highlight there is we strive for a 50-50 balance of content and processing time. We don't always achieve that number, and we'll dive a little bit into the pros and cons of that approach. Um, but it's kind of our stated goal is to um, break things down in that way. So in our courses, we try to have a collegiate learning environment. We have presenters, and we encourage our presenters to um, be part of the workshop over the course of the several days. Um, we work in small groups, and we utilize coaches to kind of help push the interaction and the engagement. Sometimes if you have a room of 30, it's really difficult to hear all those voices. So breaking into small groups and using coaches kind of helps to decentralize that flow of information. We have a couple other tools that we utilize. We have an action plan, or that's an authentic task that our course participants are working on over the course of the workshop. Um, and that's kind of a deliverable that we're hoping that they produce and share on the last day. A good way to ensure that what they're learning can be applied in their work. And then we do field trips as part of our agenda as well, ideally where people can see firsthand examples of the techniques that we uh, teach and train around in person. And then we also evaluate and iterate to kind of continuously improve. And then we like to have some sort of follow-up engagement or post-course webinar or other activities that kind of build our community of practice. Okay. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about finding balance in your course agenda. This is probably too small for you to really read, but um, if you just look at the colors, what sticks out to you? Does anybody notice anything? Mm. To kind of explain what you're looking at, the different colors represent different types of sessions. So the green and the blue are both, content that's delivered in either a traditional or interactive format. The green is science focused, and then the blue is communication focused. The kind of orange color is logistics or other context or background. things like introductions, check-ins, conclusions. And the yellow time is project time or collaborative work time, processing time. And the purple here is the field trip. That's kind of um, another format that we rely on. So you can see it's not really a 50-50 balance there, but if you were to try to make a pie chart of these 5 colors, you might see roughly 20% of each of these types of sessions, and um, that is um, an example of a course that we held recently and how that breakdown um, played out. So I mentioned that we do evaluation, and here are a couple examples of some of the feedback that we get, and it is varied, and some of it is just Likert scale numbers, and it is related to technical skills. But then there's always kind of some open-ended questions about what were the favorite things, or what would you like to see change, and it's in this space that we really routinely see comments like these that kind of highlight that the collaborative time, the discussion time, the working with and learning from and meeting other professionals in the field that is one of the most valued and appreciated aspects of our courses. And so we're always looking for ways to um, focus and prioritize those sessions. So, without any further ado, I would like to um, direct folks to this Padlet that we've created. Kristen, can you go ahead and drop the link in the chat?
Just did it.
Perfect. So folks should be able to follow that, and that will take them to this Padlet where you can kind of contribute your own ideas. You can see some of the ones that we've put up there, but I'd love to hear from folks some other techniques and strategies that they have used in kind of putting your participants front and center and kind of moderating the flow of information to make sure that it's not just you or other presenters kind of talking at folks over the course of your workshops. Um, should I try to share the Padlet, or can everybody kind of see that independently? Monique, if you're talking, you're muted.
I have to confess, I'm trying not to type, so I was just talking in my microphone to leave a comment, but I'm happy to leave it verbally as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that. Why don't I just walk you through a couple of the things that are there? Genevieve has kind of posted a picture of one of the activities. This is like a get to know you activity that we often do at the beginning of the course, where people are sharing, where they're from, what resource is at their site, and what kind of work do they do. Um, then one of the comments that I put is that we utilize activities like showcases or mini world cafes where people get to bring their own questions and their own concerns to kind of drive the discussion. And we found the showcases are a really good way for folks to platform what they're doing at their sites. This picture is one of our participants at a recent course who works for the Forest Service, and she just did tabling like she would at any normal outreach event where she talked about, the programs that she was doing. Real quick, I have posted one of our rosters to kind of show how with a larger group, we broke folks into um, small groups with a coach to kind of drive small group engagement. I use a presentation guide to kind of when people are listening to a presentation so they can take notes, and this can drive the conversation and the follow-up and the Q&A. And then there's an example of the action plan worksheet. I had mentioned that earlier. That's another way that we try to encourage folks to apply what they're learning to their work. And it looks like some folks are jumping in there. We've got a fearless bat and a hopeful caterpillar. Would any of those folks like to speak up and share what they wrote? Or Monique, I kind of cut you off. Do you want to jump in at this point and share some of your thoughts?
I really like this. I haven't used Padlet to gather information like this. I did have a question, and I'm wondering, what are the guidelines or goals for the coaches that are in small groups? What do they hope to do with the participants?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I can answer that, but just for the sake of hearing another voice, Jeff or Genevieve, would either of you want to field that one?
Sure, I'm
I'll
happy
leave
to
that one
step
to you.
in.
Go on, Jeff. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Genevieve. So hi everybody. I'm Jeff. I'm one of John's colleagues at Earth to Sky. We find that the coaches really help in a couple of ways. One, they're an experienced voice who probably has some knowledge either of the Earth to Sky model, which is always helpful, or if they're not, we've gone through a selection process with them by talking to peers of theirs and recommendations to make sure that they have some sort of experience that might be beneficial to the participants, especially as they're walking through kind of some of the denser material that we have that has to do with science and NASA's interpretation of that science and how that might apply to the authentic task and action plan that John will get to probably that we ask them to produce by the end of the training. And so having that experienced voice in a small group is great. Mostly at the beginning, our coaches are listening and they're kind of feeling everyone out, see where they're at, how's it going. They're a key point of contact for those of us who are facilitating because they can do everything from, hey, it's too cold in this room, or the food was no good, or whatever, those kinds of things that participants might not want to jump in on. But they can also kind of lean back into the discussion a bit more, challenge the participants after hearing a presentation in ways that they might not, they're just trying to, process information. And so having someone there who's familiar with the content, the coaches ahead of time know what the presentations are going to be, so they kind of have a leg up on the participants. So early on, they're kind of that, and then as the process goes on, they're helping to develop that product that we're asking our participants to come up with.
Thank you. And I think this is, you put that there promotes a collegial learning environment, which I really like. How much of co-learning, what percentage of co-learning and co-collaboration and discovery do you see just from yourself? Do you notice from these workshops?
Boy, that's a great question, Monique. And I think some of the last thoughts that I have on my slides kind of get to that a little bit. Um, there's no secret formula, and I think a lot of it depends on who you have in the room and what the dynamics are. I would also highlight that kind of co-creation is something that we strive for, but it can be messy. It can be uncomfortable. You have to kind of relinquish control a little bit in order to really, encourage that. And you never know exactly what you're going to get. But I will say that Consistently we receive feedback that people appreciate those opportunities and find them valuable, even if they don't kind of meet the goals that we might have in mind. Or anyone knows that you've given a program and you say, "Oh, that was the worst program I've ever given," and the audience loves it. Or you think, "Boy, I really nailed that one," and your audience says, "Ho hum." So I think this is one of those examples where when you give space to the voices of your participants, it almost uniformly is well received, whether or not it meets the objectives that you had in mind. So you have to kind of brace yourself for that and maybe even plan or expect that that's going to be a piece of the equation.
I so agree. I feel like a superpower for interpreters is to be able to tolerate ambiguity, just to be able to sit in uncertainty and be totally okay with that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I see some really good comments here from folks that assign a number and roll a dice to kind of like force participation, um, to just having um, any content that you're providing paired with some sort of breakout or game or um, other kind of enrichment. And then I see there's some icebreakers, and sometimes in those icebreakers, trying to gauge which styles people like to use or how they like to learn. Does anyone want to jump in here a little bit and talk about what they have done or what has worked well for them?
I'm
Kristen?
happy. Yeah, I'm happy to
Yeah.
pipe up quickly. I'm thinking about just something you said a few slides back about balancing. And I know when I was newer in my training, I got very caught up and I want to give them all the knowledge.
Mhm.
And so I quite literally almost had to go TED Talk style. And if I talk 20 minutes, it's time to set some other time aside for the audience to do something, for them to go into a breakout. I literally had to aim almost looking at that pie chart, like you said, to make sure I was building in enough time. But then also to really mix it up. Uh, Even in a virtual environment, doing something where people can perhaps get on their feet, they may or may not play along. Anything that I can gamify, anything that I can have people almost teaching one another or hive minding something. Um, I'm frequently the only trainer in the room, although I do team teach sometimes. But any course, people have lived life. So even if they are new to my particular subject matter, there is something in their life that will be valuable and they can come in and almost be that coach for somebody else, whether it is how do you deal with difficult questions or how do you execute this new skill. There's usually some way in which you can allow people to draw on whatever expertise they brought into the room with them, which is very empowering as well as sort of mixing it up and giving it this balance.
Yeah, excellent, Kristen. I agree with all of those pieces, those elements, and I know exactly how you feel. Like we're bringing these people together. They want to hear from us, right? We're the experts, or in our sessions, we sometimes have the world's authority, scientists from NASA, right? But we find that it, even if those folks are just talking at people, you quickly lose interest, even if they are. Um, you know, even if they have really compelling things to say. I see some really good stuff coming up on our Padlet now. Can I put the trustworthy elephant on the spot? It sounds like they have kind of a neat approach that I'd love to hear a little bit more about.
Hi there. I'm gonna switch and put my camera on while I'm talking, but there's repair work going on here, so if it gets noisy, apologies. But yeah, I'm Susan, and what did you want to know?
So it sounds like um, what you're doing here a little bit is trying to assess prior knowledge, kind of before you present something.
Yeah, it might be prior knowledge, it might be attitudes, and more, trying to, gently tease out what kind of barriers am I about to deal with, what kind of resistance might there be to this topic. I do a color coding kind of like y'all do, but I also include a color for any activity that might be emotional labor as opposed to intellectual labor, because I do
Uh-huh.
a lot of things related to community engagement and that kind of thing, but also interp and depending on your topic, that can be a question. And sometimes it's just, a way for people to team build. And oh yeah, I feel that same way. Or oh yeah, that's kind of a struggle for me. And it also helps you start spotting who might be a coach, who might be a mentor, who might be a learner. So I can use it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. I really like that. That occurred to me as I was looking at the color coding. There's a lot of ways to color code an agenda, right? In terms of what type of activity this is, who is doing the majority of the speaking, and you could, break things down along a number of different variables, and it might reveal balance, in a number of different aspects. Great, this is great. So we've kind of assembled some really good tips and tricks, and I also see folks are able to, comment on what other people have posted. Um, and I noticed Cheerful Tilapia has talked a little bit about using pre-training surveys to kind of tailor what they're going to present during the workshop. Would would this person be willing to speak a little bit about how they do that and how what they learn might change how they're presenting?
Hi, that's me, the other Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
So for me, my trainings are a little different. I train all of our interns,
Hmm.
versus for maybe like general public or other teachers, maybe that you all do. So I send this all out before they arrive. So for us, just to give you a little bit knowledge of our internship program, we do 2 to 3 weeks of intensive training before we send them out to the public and let them do what they need to do for their internship. So for that, I do send out that pre-survey because as we all know, everyone learns differently. So then I try to incorporate, I have different versions of different trainings that I do. So then if I know that there are half of them, we usually have six each year, so then I know like if half like more video, I try to incorporate more videos in, but then also give those people that maybe like to read things more or have me actually talk it out to them, that I am either repeating those things in reviews at the end of the day in certain forms, or then I have an information bank that it's literally a Google Doc that I create for my interns each year, that it's a, we talked about XYZ today. Here's a video about it if you need to watch like more, like to drive it back into your head. Or for us, like a new research paper went out. I work for a shark research group. So new research paper came out. So here's the link to that. So you can read about it. We have questions and we can go over it in the next training, so on and so forth. So I use that to help then adjust my training before going in. I typically know what we're going to do each year in and year out. And then that also helps me balance other speakers I have coming into the training, so they're not just hearing me gab for 2 weeks straight. So it helps me out then in actually planning out my training, how they actually like to learn, as well as then knowing who to bring in and what other resources to utilize or not, depending on the class each year. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, Kristen. Thanks. I love the idea of having like whatever topic you're talking about, having two or three different variations that you could use depending on what else is going on that week and how that's being presented and who your audience is and how that, they've stated that they are learning well as providing like supplementary materials. Okay, we talked about this. You can go and if you want to read something, that is related or relevant or builds on what we learned on, about people can go and do that afterwards. And I think that goes with creating a resource-rich environment, which is something that is a hallmark of our method as well, so that if people, their interest is piqued by a topic, they know where to go to find more or to take a deeper dive. Um, all right, great. I think I'm gonna move past this Padlet unless there's kind of any questions or comments or other things that folks are seeing or want to share. All right, great. Thanks for the ideas. So is my PowerPoint still up? Can folks still see that? All right, I just have a few additional discussion questions that I thought I could throw out there and we could dig into. The first is what's the right balance of learning versus doing? What obstacles and challenges have you experienced in sharing the stage with participants? So I think this gets a little bit to what Monique and Kristen were mentioning of like, when you are co-creating, um, you're going to get burned sometimes, or sometimes it's not going to go the way that you planned. How do you make adjustments mid-course to meet the changing needs of your group? So that kind of came up in a couple ways that are already. And how does the size and makeup of your roster impact the choices that you make? So, um, as well as if there's any kind of other um, questions that are on folks' mind, feel free to jump in. If none of these are sticking out to folks, how about if we just dive specifically into making adjustments mid-course to meet the changing needs of your group? Does anybody have any um,
John?
strategies or techniques that they've used? Yeah, go ahead, Kristen.
If I may, I think Megan from Brucemore was about to speak to one of them.
Oh
Before
yeah,
we move to a specific, do you mind if we tag
no,
back to
no,
her?
yeah,
Awesome.
please, Megan.
Well, I was just gonna say, I don't know if I've ever struck the right balance of learning versus doing. I'm still learning that with my team, especially as my team evolves a lot. There's a lot of turnover in my team. So trying to remember who's learned what, who should know what through it all. But like the training I'll be doing with my interpreters is for our holiday season coming up, and I have 2 days of it, to like 4 hour days. And one day is going to be a lot of learning where I'm just kind of lecturing them about like expectations and using the softwares and da 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 da, and how the holiday tours are different than regular tours. But then using the second day as an opportunity to be more on our feet and more interactive and more um, kind of learning as we're going, as opposed to me just talking at them for a couple hours. And I always warn them when we're on the talkie day. I'm like, this is about to be really boring, but please pay attention. Because it's what I can do in the moment.
Thank you, Megan. Yeah, that resonates with me. This day is going to be very much like this, but know that tomorrow is going to be different. So, you can expect that. And sometimes that, helps alleviate the angst that if people are in their seat and getting fidgety. Um, Anybody else? Is there one of these questions that jumps out?
I'll mention one thing about that last one.
Mm-hmm.
The
Great.
one thing I don't do is cut interactions. I will switch them. And that I have found that requires some real grit on my part, because anytime your group is much larger and you're still holding that space for the interactions, they almost always burst their nice little boundaries if you really want everybody to have a chance to participate, because it's just more unpredictables and more wild cards. And so with a large group, I might be using a technique where everybody can simultaneously do something. And then if we're in person, maybe we do a gallery walk instead of in a smaller group. Maybe I give everybody the floor for a minute or two to actually talk and process things. I'm a verbal processor, so I love to be able to sort my thoughts by talking. But, too many of me in a room and you've just lost an hour instead of 15 minutes. But, it does take some time to figure out what are those pivots I can use to be really efficient with time and still get maximum participation from the larger group.
Yeah. Great, Kristen. I I'll just pass it to Jeff. Oh, are you there? Jeff, you're muted.
I am, thanks, John.
Yeah.
I was going to take your prompt on how to make adjustments mid-course to meeting the changing needs of the group. And the only thing I'd want to say here is be open to making adjustments, especially if this is a training that you do every single year and you're really good at it and you don't need to prep for it and you can just pull it out of your back pocket and fill that hour because it's when the volunteers are coming or the interns are coming or whatever it is. Even in that, where you could do it in your sleep, be willing and open to make adjustments as needed. Because I think sometimes we just, we want to railroad that information through to them, especially if it's something they have to know, or if it's safety or something like that. Those are, I think, the danger zones for us as trainers, is that we just get into our rut and we assume that everybody thinks it's as great as we think it is. And so be willing to make adjustments.
Susan, go ahead.
I completely agree with that. It's way too easy for me to be more impressed with my game plan than the groups always are. And I learned something recently, a technique that has really helped me a lot. I went to a facilitation training at the Smithsonian Institutes up in Vermont, and one of the techniques that they use is plus delta, where you divide folks up into a small group, and you give them each a flip chart. And for that particular day, under the plus column, they write everything that worked well during that session. And then on the delta side, everything that could use a change or an improvement. And of course, the tricky part is that not everybody agrees, and one person thinks the room is too cold, another person thinks the room is too hot, and you've all been there for that. But then the small groups share out the feedback. And so then they get to hear that there are differences of opinions that the facilitators and trainers have to, navigate. And it is also role modeling for them how to do feedback in a structured and neutral way. So I found that very helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. Boy, I bet getting conflicting feedback is something that everyone, I think, is that's ever done training is experienced. You just have to kind of shake your head at it sometimes and try to do your best to maybe be in the middle. Kristen, quick time check. Are we wrapped up here, or do we have?
I was actually looking to see what I'd publicized for this one. Traditionally, we try to keep it to 45, and then if folks can and want to stay around afterward for a little more discussion. Where are you in terms of what you still wanted to cover?
I had just a couple final takeaways I wanted to share, and then I think.
Go for it.
Okay. So thanks everybody for sharing your thoughts. I really appreciate hearing from you all. I did come up with a couple wise practices that I want to throw out there, and perhaps they'll resonate with folks. Um, when you are putting your participants front and center, it is really important to establish norms of collaboration up front. How are we going to work together? How are we going to learn and share? And getting on the same page early on will help you circle back later if one person is really taking up a lot of space, or if some folks are not participating. Focus on developing a community of practice. So, I think one of the things that came out in the feedback that we received is the learning from each other is one of the strongest aspects of one of the takeaways that people get from our workshops. And so making that a goal in of itself. If you're training interns, you want that team of interns to be in an environment where they are learning and sharing together. And I find that that is one of the best ways to, throughout the season, have them continually learning and growing and functioning as a group. So look for ways to kind of build and encourage that mindset. Everyone has something to give. You have to be comfortable with relinquishing control. We talked about that a little bit. And then here, co-creation is a spectrum. So, um, at the furthest extent, it's totally non-hierarchical. And then, at the other extent, it's all flowing from you. And it doesn't have to be either or. It can be anywhere in between. And sometimes there's a middle space where it has to come from you, but you're also giving space to others. And that's maybe the right fit. You just have to find where on that spectrum. Susan, you had your hand raised and then you put it down.
Nope,
Did you
it was
want
an accident. I was trying to click
Oh,
on the
okay.
heart. I love what you just said, and I was trying to do a heart.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
Wonderful. And so I'll kind of wrap my end there. There's my email if folks want to reach out to learn more about Earth to Sky. There's our website. I encourage you to join and to check out some of the things that we're doing. Maybe it is a good fit for you, or maybe there's room for you in our community of practice. And I also just wanted to highlight some of the upcoming webinars that we have planned for the month of November. You can learn more about those on our website. And that does it for me.
Thank you. This is really helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Monique. Since I couldn't manage to get myself off of mute. John, thank you so much for coming and being with us today. And for all of you who joined us for this conversation, thank you very much. Again, I'm going to throw those links into the chat as well. You have John's contact information, Earth to Sky. You've got Message Mindset if you want to see, where we go next, and my information if you would consider being a guest trainer for an upcoming clinic. Just a couple of final notes. There we go. Again, we will let you know who next month's guest trainer is and what the topic is. We hope to see many of you back. This was recorded. We'll get it edited and cleaned up and ready for public consumption, and then we will post it to our YouTube channel. You can also see any of the past skill clinics. We've had things, like I said, on gratitude and empathy and big ideas, and there's just lots of different things out there if you want to go take a look. And thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. If there's any last questions, any last comments, I know I can hang around for a few minutes. I don't know, John, if you might be able to stay a moment.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Well. Great. Thank you all for your time today. Happy interpreting out there.
John, I'm so curious because I do like get feedback. I teach a 5-day course, and I get feedback probably day 2 or day 3 to see where people are at, with their outlines
Hmm.
and with their schedule. And I build in time in my agenda, even if it doesn't show, for me to make adjustments. Like I think, and I was so curious if Earth to Sky does that too. I'm like, there's capacity in there for me to be able to address that without it feeling like it's gonna bust up my schedule. And I guess the other thing is creating a space at the beginning, like this is people are going to make mistakes. I am going to make mistakes during this training, like creating a space that feels safe enough for people to be able to show up, give their authentic work, like, and feel great about it as you take them to the next level, as you're able to connect with them and say, okay, this is amazing. Because I end up, and you all do with people that are this is their first time, or maybe they're a master trainer of penguins. And so it's different levels of understanding in these classes. And so to be able, I love that you put everyone has something like your norms. I'm like, you just codified. You just codified what I do. I'd never actually thought about it like that. I like feel good about this. But I love that and honoring that at the beginning by having creating a space like what would make this a safe space for you to learn what those questions that they can answer as a group, those group guidelines, group agreements that they come to together, and sort of revisiting those every day. Hey, have we done this today? Or, have is there something where we need to change go moving forward? So anyway, that was long to just say you
No.
create space in your schedule.
Yeah, and I mean, you touched on so many good things there. I mean, right, kind of the foundation of any of this being successful is having a safe space where folks are on the same page in how we're going to proceed. And yeah, you just have to, at the onset, explicitly address that and give it as much time as you need so that everyone understands, these are the rules of engagement, and that they've been given a chance to put input into those, right? Because sometimes like these are our rules, you have to like say, how do you want to do this together, and really set that expectation early, um, so that people feel welcome and
Yeah.
comfortable and like they belong.
I mean,
Um,
that love and belonging is so big for
it's
people to
huge.
feel. It's huge. And giving people the opportunity to make those connections. It's an invitation, right? You can't, it
Hmm.
has to all be invitational and considering and can't force it. And because with adults, and I teach adults, I find that people, especially with online classes, they want to have autonomy in this co-creation. And so to give people that, whether it's like, hey, I'm going to invite you to turn your screen off for the next 10 minutes or so while we go through this, or if you need to while you're learning this section, feel free to do that. But I find that most people don't, because they don't want to miss something. But giving people that opportunity to say, hey, like Kristen was like, eat on screen, you're living your life. We don't just stop to take these courses. We have life happening around us as these courses are happening. So just to make note of that for people, I think is pretty big. And I also ask this, and I bet you do as well, like what type, is there anything, are there any accommodations or needs that I can meet during this, that need to be met during this course? I don't even know how I said it, but something where if someone needs to let me know, I learn better this way, or I might need this, they can tell me before the class starts and I can connect with them if I need to adjust what I'm doing or for what they need. So,
One thing uh, that I'm thinking of here, a couple things, but like there is a push and pull there. Like, how much are you going to them, and how much are you asking that they come to you? And there's a little bit of a dynamic tension that um, maybe everyone has their own individual, because yes, you want to say I'm coming to you to like ensure that I'm hearing what you need, and that I'm setting it up in a way that you are, it's accessible to you. But at the same time, you can trip over yourself going, you sometimes you have to know when to like switch that and say, I'm needing you to um, get outside your comfort zone a little bit, or
Yeah.
challenge yourself, or
Yeah.
press yourself a little bit, because especially a lot of our courses, we don't charge a fee, we don't provide some
What? I'm gonna look back at
stick,
those.
so to speak, that we're holding over them. Then
Yeah.
we have to like be careful in how we are ensuring that they are invested.
Yeah, that's such a good point because for my classes, right this year, most people are paying for their interpretive guiding course themselves.
Right.
So
So it's there.
there's an
Yeah.
investment. So that's a different audience per se. And I hear what you're saying, having done
Yeah.
programs, as an environmental educator, it's that people have the ability to stay, walk off, what's going to be compelling to them to want to continue on the journey with you. How can you, invite them to engage with the topic and with the people around them? And I mean, that's the age-old question. And I was going to just point out one quickly. I love this presentation guide. I love how you said, what was at the beginning? How do I use this guide? I love that. I never thought about adding that to anything that I have. And that's just brilliant. And I love the reflection questions for people to use on their own. These are great. And you talk about I want to come to your community of practice session and your common ground panel discussion. I'm in. I'm like, I just these are great because it's always something you have to cultivate in ourselves and continue to grow to hold space for that community of practice and to hold space to be curious about where common ground might be. And a lot of this is understanding for me taking care of yourself. Like if people have that notion for me, and I'm in my own world, which is different from Earth to Sky, but if people get from me, I want you to take care of yourself during this time that we have together because I'm doing the same thing. I mean, that's the approach that I have.